What's up, everybody? Oh, sorry. Hold on one second. Sorry about that. I don't know if you guys heard that or not. My phone was going off. What's happening? It's been a minute. Haven't seen you guys in a while, so sorry for the long absence. But we are supposed to have a really good episode tonight with Weston Wenner from Wildfire Retics, but I'm not sure. I have not gotten a hold of him. So I don't know for sure if we're going to actually have this episode tonight or not. I mean, we could just, if he ends up not showing up, I might be able to pull somebody else last minute, have them jump on, or, we can just, I'll just answer some questions in the comments here. But I hope everyone had a good holiday. Actually, I'm going to take these off since I don't need them. I hope everybody had a good holiday, good Christmas, good New Year's, and all that stuff. We had a pretty good one here. Very busy, like always. 2 kids, so it's pretty hectic. But can't really complain too much. My as far as my Retic season going, it was going pretty slow, but it's starting to pick up now. This is actually the latest. I've never not had eggs in December or January, even December and January. So kind of crazy to think that I've had eggs almost every December and January, and I have none right now. But sorry, I'm getting messages too while I'm talking. So kind of crazy. But we're getting some good locks going right now. We have some really cool stuff in the pipe coming down. For everybody that follows me on all my social media platforms, you probably have seen my posts. We have what do we got? We got the blonde tiger female that I have. She's been locking with my blonde phantom tiger male, and I'm thinking I might actually pull him and maybe put I have a possible platinum GC pied male, so I might put him in with her, make some really cool double het stuff. I really like the blonde pied stuff, so I think that would be a good way to kind of get into that project and really kind of spring forward a little bit with that. We have what else do we got? I got my GC cow female that's possibly platinum, possible tiger. So she's possibly super GC. I don't think she's a super GC though. But she's been locking with my GC cow het anthrax male. Again, not really a breeding. I kind of just put him in just to kind of see where she was at, if she was gonna accept a male or reject a male. And they've locked twice so far. So not 100% what I wanted to breed. I'm actually picking up a male from a buddy this week, and we're going to try to shoot for some split clutches with her, or a split clutch with her. That male is a purple, what is he? He's a purple platinum Motley Tiger, I believe. So purple platinum Motley Tiger to GC cow, possible platinum, possible tiger. So there's a lot of really insane possibilities out of that breeding. What else we got? There was a third breeding I had. I'm drawing a blank right now. I forget what the third one was. Oh, my Sulawesi female. She has been locking with my Sulawesi male, but the Sula stuff is just so freaking hard to breed. It's it just does not. I don't know. She's still off food. She is breeding still, but I have not seen her ovulate. She's on the cold side. She's acceptive of male. I don't know. The Sula stuff is just weird. That's all there is to it. But I mean, other than that, there's a few other pairings I'd really like to try for this season, but females are just slamming food. Males aren't really showing any breeding interest yet. So we're gonna just keep going and see what we can get. But if any of those breedings happen, I'll be ecstatic. I really want to do the double het blonde pied stuff though. For those of you who have not seen it, there's a picture floating around somewhere. I don't remember if it was Retic Nation or the Retic Connection somewhere. I believe it was Jacob over in, was it Jacob? Might have been Jacob. I don't know. It was over in the UK or Germany, somewhere over there. Reptiland or something like that. They made Blonde Pied, which was the updated photos of that snake are insane. So, yeah. Let's see. Oh, Weston might actually be hopping on here shortly. Looks like he saw my messages. So, yeah, sorry about that, guys. If he can't hop on, we'll reschedule it. Not a big deal. Life is hectic and chaotic, and I think he said he was going out of town tomorrow, so I'm sure he's got last minute stuff he's trying to get done and slipped his mind, I'm sure. 8:30. Let me just respond back to him. Sorry, guys. All right, looks like he's going to hop on here shortly. It might take, he said, maybe 8:30. Yeah, so hopefully if you guys can hold out, he said he had a crazy day, which I'm sure we'll hear about here shortly, and then he's going to hop on here in a little bit. So I guess I'll just ramble for a while. I don't know if there's any questions you guys got for me or anything you'd like to know, or anything going on in the Retic community you guys want to chat about or want my opinion for what it's worth. We can talk about that. Let's see who's all in here right now. We got Renku, what's up? Jerry Robertson, my boy. Reptile Jim, what's up, buddy? Harsh Reptiles, that's a new one. I don't know if I've ever seen you on here, Harsh, so thank you for checking in, checking out the podcast. Hopefully we can get this going here shortly. My buddy Jason, local guy here in Chicago. What's up, buddy? Hopefully that GC, that Phantom GC Sun Tiger is doing awesome for you. But I hope everybody is everybody's having some good breedings this year. Good luck so far, and going to have some cool stuff. Looking at a lot of people's posts, it looks like people are going to put out some insanely cool animals. Let's see, Renku. What's my thoughts on the biggest problem in the Retic community? I guess that depends on what your opinion is if you're asking what my thought is on what the biggest problem is. Not quite sure if that's what you mean, or I assume that's what you meant. I think it's a tough one. It's hard because my opinion personally is I think the biggest problem is everybody, again, I think I've said this before, is not. Can you guys hear me all right too? I didn't even think about that since I don't have my mic on, or I was using off my headphones. But I think the biggest problem in the Retic community, honestly, right now is probably, man, that is tough. I don't want to say, maybe overbreeding, overpopulation is a big one. Popping out a ton of clutches of all stuff that doesn't really need to be made. Like, I get it. There are some breedings where people have to do to make a lot of pos het, this and that, and that's fine. But I see a lot of people, and a lot of times it's the newer people. There's new people wanting to get in and breeding to breed retics and stuff, and they are throwing like platinum to tiger or, platinum to a normal. Just stuff like that we don't really need. I mean, like albinos is a very basic morph, and they sell very well. I think doing that's okay, but I mean, there's just too much of that going on that I've seen. I think that's a huge problem. Then there's some breeders that are just mass producing so many clutches of retics that it's honestly scary. I have 3 pairings that are going right now that are locking, and I don't even think all 3 will go. Honestly, if one goes or 2, I'd be surprised. I don't know if the Sulas will take, but the other 2 might go. And I got 1 or 2 that I'm going to plan for, because I've never had every breeding go that I've tried for. So, I try for 5, I might get 3. And I think for me, 3 clutches, 4 clutches. The most I've ever had was 5, and I think that was almost too much. But I see guys that are doing 30, 40, 50 clutches of retics, and not super dwarfs. We're talking mainlands. We're talking big animals, 40, 50 egg clutches. That's a lot of snakes. That's a lot of retics, and it's a lot of homes, to find for those animals. That's where, then you start getting into the, culling babies. Do you cull stuff? What's the thought process on that? Like, I've never had to cull stuff. I usually do find pretty decent homes for some of my babies. There's been a few times where I've had to take animals back from people that they just got too hard for them to care for, and I've taken them back and I found other homes for them. But I mean, when you're producing 50 clutches of retics, I mean, that's an insane amount of number of babies. Like, where do all those go? I look at some of the bigger breeders who are producing insane amounts of snakes, and I can't even fathom where a lot of those babies go. It's I think that's one of the biggest problems. It's hard too, though, because you want to sell these animals. I mean, when you're starting to buy some of the higher end stuff, you're buying ocelot stuff or hypo or pieds or this or that, or people buying those snakes are kind of buying them as an investment in a way, and they're going to want to breed them. Hold on one second. So they're going to want to breed those snakes, which is understandable. They're not. You're not buying an ocelot for the most part to just keep for pet. There might be a few people that do, but I think if you're spending the money on that project, you're in it to breed. So, now you're kind of, I don't want to say adding to the problem, but I mean, that's now more people breeding and more people selling. And it's just, you got to get the new people in and kind of like teach them the proper ways or I think the more ethical ways of keeping and breeding these snakes, not just let's breed as many as we can and try to produce as much stuff as we can, because that's just not the way to do it. But yeah, I mean, I think there's more than one. I think that's a pretty big issue. There's a few other issues for sure within the Retic community that I've noticed more and more as of late. I think we're always going to have issues and stuff. And I mean, it sucks being that we're usually the ones under fire the most, being the big snake keepers, and we're the ones that seem to always be fighting for our rights. It sucks that we're the ones that are always getting kind of shit on for the most part, but yeah. Let's see. Oh, there's Wes. I think Weston's jumping on. Hold on one second. There he is.
What's up, man?
What's up, dude? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Can you hear
Oh,
me?
yeah. Holy shit, man. I was like, oh, no, I hope you didn't forget.
I didn't forget, bro.
It's all good. And you know what? I don't have your phone. I don't have your cell phone. I was going to call you. I'm like, oh, shit, I should have got that earlier.
No, man, it's my bad. I've had one hell of a day. Most people have Saturdays and Sundays to do chores around the house and stuff like that. And between the snakes and having to go to my farm and plow snow and everything else.
Yeah.
It's been a day. So
I figured, man. Nah, you're all good, dude. Don't worry. I figured something. I was like, because I know you said you were going out of town. I was like, oh, he's probably busy packing or doing shit or something. Probably just.
I haven't even started that. I haven't even started
shit.
that. That's my. I gotta be at the airport at like 7:45 in the morning. I'll probably be in bed by sometime around 2. That's my
holy shit. Yeah, it's all right, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on, man. I'm glad
absolutely.
that
absolutely. I know we've been talking about doing this for a while, so happy to do it.
Yeah. So anybody that doesn't know, this is Weston. Weston runs Wildfire Retics. You're out of Utah, right, Weston? You're out in Utah now?
I am now. Yeah, Park City. I moved here in mid 2020. So before that, I was in Colorado. That's where Wildfire Retics started.
Sweet. So what got you into reptiles? Have you always been into them, or was there like a catalyst that kind of got you into them, or what?
Man, I've been into them since I was a kid. I grew up in Northwest Ohio. We didn't have a lot of snakes up there, but dude, I'd catch frogs and toads and all kinds of just whatever reptiles I could find. I'd keep them in shoe boxes in my closet. I drove my parents crazy. And then really what happened is I got to college and I'd always wanted a snake. My to this day, my old man hates snakes.
Really?
Stand them, doesn't want to be in my facility, like wants nothing to do with them. So when I was growing up, I was just not allowed to have them, like period. He wouldn't let them in the house. I try to sneak them in, garter snakes or whatever I'd catch and he'd find them and then he'd throw them back outside. So when I got to college, some buddies of mine actually had a ball python, and I went to college in South Florida. They kept it in a cage on their lanai, on their patio, right? Because South Florida, it's always warm enough.
Yeah.
And every time I went over there, like I was cleaning its cage and getting it out and messing with it. And one day, one of the dudes called me. He's like, "Hey, man, like we don't want this snake anymore. Do you want it?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll take it." Hey, stop. Hold on a second. I gotta tell
No, you're fine. You're fine. That's pretty awesome. That'd be the shit. That'd be awesome, dude. To keep them out keep your snakes out on the porch like that.
Yeah, South Florida. You can keep it up. I mean, Tom Crutchfield.
Yeah.
Up outside. So, anyways, I got that ball python from them. That was the first one I'd ever had, just a normal ball python. I had it for 6-7 years. And it was the first one I had, and I always held on to it. And it just kind of spurred me into reptiles, right?
Yep.
From there, so you and I are about the same age, right? And so when we were into reptiles, there was no Facebook, there were no message groups, there was none of that. There was kingsnake.com. That was how you bought and sold reptiles. And so I discovered that, like a lot of us did back in the day, and started just going through it, right? And like initially it was more ball pythons, and then pieds were the biggest thing back then. I remember when the very first Lucy ball python was produced, and when it came out. But anyways, ball pythons were what started it, and then from ball pythons I got into boa constrictors, and then boa constrictors I got a couple Burmese, and then I'd always had this thing for retics, right? But back then an albino retic was like $5,000, and as a college kid I didn't have $5,000, right? And so I went on a spree of just kind of like a lot of keepers do, like figuring out what I wanted. I kept everything from geckos and chameleons. Like I said, ball pythons.
You're right.
I had a kick with on venomous for a while, and kept a bunch of hots. And then, and I think this, a lot of people probably don't, but I bred pit bulls for about a decade. And that also happened in college. Right? It's when I got my first pit bull.
Right.
And I hit a point where I had like 30, 40 different reptiles, and I had 4 pit bulls, and I was trying to do both, and it wasn't working.
That's got to be a tough thing to do, man. The dogs and snakes at the same time.
It wasn't working, and in addition to go to school, work, everything.
Right, life. Yep.
Yeah. So I picked the pit bulls, and I literally sold all the reptiles, and got completely out of them for really almost probably about a decade almost. Close to a decade. And I didn't keep anything. I was doing the dog thing. At one point I personally had 29 dogs. So
holy shit, dude. God damn.
The animal breeding thing in me, that's not a new thing. That's
right.
My early 20s. So, and then really what happened is sort of life happened, man. I started growing up, getting in my older 20s, you know, and the dog thing, like I was trying to build a career in corporate America and trying to do
Right.
the dog thing, and the two just didn't they didn't mesh. Basically,
Yeah.
they're constantly clashing. And so I ended up giving away a bunch of my dogs to friends of mine, just like, here, give them a family home, you know, whatever. And slowly but surely got out of the dog thing until I only had one dog. And then in 2013, I moved to Colorado. I said enough of corporate America, and we can get into this if you want to, or we can just keep it about Retics. But I completely switched my life path. You know, I've always been into cannabis, and in 2013 I took a stab. Moved to Colorado, sold everything I had in Florida, and jumped into the medical cannabis industry.
That's awesome, man.
And
you're killing it, right? You're killing it out there. It seems like you're doing pretty good.
Yeah, we're doing well. Yes,
that's good, man.
We're obviously not doing medical cannabis here in Utah yet. Working on it. Still just doing hemp. And
gotcha.
I've had. You know, we'll get to why Wildfire Retics was born. It loops into the cannabis thing.
Okay.
But so yeah, I moved there in 2013, and same thing. I'd always in the back of my mind, there were two snakes that I'd never owned, but I always wanted to. One was an albino retic, one was a king cobra, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't going straight back into a king like that. Just I knew that wasn't a smart move. As I tell people now, I kept venomous when I was much younger, faster, and dumber.
Yeah, yeah. I always wanted to keep them, never did, and now with kids, there's no way. There'd be no way. I'd be too scared.
Yeah,
especially having them in my house. Especially having them in the house, there'd be no way. But
yeah, and I look back on the years when I kept hots in my house, and you know, like that I lived in not like one separate room. Like I had them in different rooms all over the place. I was really lucky that I didn't that something bad didn't happen. So
yeah, it's scary, man. It's give you guys props, man. I see all the guys doing venomous stuff now, and it's like they're so awesome. I mean, if I was younger, I would do it. I'd probably now, but
yeah,
man, there's some cool shit.
It's a rush, and they're super amazing animals to work with, no question. I just same thing. Like for me anymore, it's just not. And again, part of it. I want to interact with my animals, right? Like I don't just want to look at them through the glass, pull them out with a book, put them in a bin. Like I want to work with them, and you know that's how you end up dying if you do that.
Yeah, you can't do that. So then how did all that transition into Wildfire then? Like what? How did that happen?
So like I said, I was living in Colorado, and I wanted one. Basically, I was like, look, I'm gonna get one snake, just one, right? We all know that.
Just one. Yeah,
just gonna get one. And so only thing I knew how to do, I got back on kingsnake.com, you know, and this is in late 2013. And I found a classified ad for a purple albino, what was supposed to be a male.
Okay.
And I really wanted a white phase albino, but I couldn't find any. Like I just couldn't find any.
Which is crazy.
Right. And so I saw this purple, he was super dope. It's like $600. And I was like, fun.
Sold.
Yeah, send them to me. So I got them. I got this huge, you know, again, never kept Retics, didn't know a damn thing about them. So what did I do? The snake was like it was like an 8-9 foot snake. I went and got an 8x3 enclosure for it, custom made.
Hell yeah.
I'm only going to have the one snake. I just want the one big cage in my office, like, you know, no problem. So I got the snake and went through a lot of the, you know, first time retic keeper issues. Snake wouldn't eat, like it just I didn't have its temps right. Unfortunately, you know, it was a hardy animal, and he made it kind of live through everything with me. His name was Baraka, and there's still pictures of him either on my personal Facebook, or I've put a couple pictures of him up on my Wildfire social media over the years. But he was definitely not a female, or definitely not a male. It was a female.
Oh, really?
But there's no question in my mind about that, just because of the size of that it got to.
Okay.
And
you said you got him at what, 8? He was like 8 foot when you got him? 8-9 foot?
Like 8-9 feet, and he was supposed to be like 2.5, 3 years old. I you know, again, I have no idea the guy that I got him from. I don't think he really knew. Again, first time retic problems. So you know, just not knowing where to go. And so literally that was the only retic I had. It was the only snake I had in my house. And I had that snake for 3 years. And so again, I lived in the mountains of Colorado. November 2016, I went home to Florida for Thanksgiving. I was gone for a week. The guy that was supposed to watch my house for me didn't go over. We got a massive snowstorm, lost power, snake
Oh, shit.
And like I came home and, dead snake.
Yeah.
And it was just like, fuck, dude, like,
that's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking, man.
Well, especially when you only have the one, like that snake, I'd let it get out and crawl around the house, like, doing whatever. So yeah, I was definitely hurt by it. And at the same time, I was like, well, I'm not going without one. So time to get another one.
Yep.
And so I started looking, and right before before he had died, I had started seeing message boards on Facebook for snakes. And so I started looking. I found the Nation. I found Connection. I found all the different boards. And it was just like this whole world opened up.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Like,
so you weren't in, so you were out of snakes at the time when like it was the whole forum days, right? Pre-social media and all that, or were you kind of still in the, like when you were out of the hobby, were you kind of still looking, or were you out like nothing whatsoever?
I was out.
So you missed all those good days of like Bob Clark forums and nerd forums and King Snake or the Constrictor.
Yeah, I was never part of any of that, man. Literally, when I was out, I was completely out.
Man,
like I said, when I went to get back in and buy that first purple retic, only thing I knew to do was go to King Snake.
Right.
I genuinely didn't know
that even existed.
Yeah,
those weren't even there. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I had no idea. So 2016, man, I went and I started looking, discovered the boards, and I saw this picture, and it was this dude with this giant purple retic, and was like, "That's what I want." And that dude was Paul Lucas, and
was that Sunshine? Was that the snake say Sunshine? Yeah.
Sunshine. Yeah, it was Sunshine, and I saw that picture, and I'll never forget. I commented, I was like, "That's exactly the kind of snake I want," and he responded, "This is the kind of snake I produce." And so we started. And it actually wasn't the first snake that I got from him. The first snake that I bought from him is the female I still have, Diamond.
Okay.
And he had her for sale, and I bought her waiting for Sunshine to drop her clutch.
All right.
That's how I started buying more. So I went from literally 0 retics to I think, actually, I got to back up 1 second. So this is a crazy story. So this is actually how Wildfire really started. So I was looking for a purple, and I was on the boards, and it was in one of the retic boards that got deleted from Facebook. I forget which one, but it was one of the ones that got deleted. And this dude made a post, 15 retics, $500, must pick up in Arkansas, and he had a list. And there were platinum jamps, and there were white albino. There was it was a hell of a list.
Just all sorts of cool shit.
Yeah, and I was like, "There's no way this is real. Like, this is a scam, right? Like, no way this is real." So I sent him a message. I'm just like, "Hey, man, like, I'm for real. I live in Colorado. Like, you're about a 12 to 13 hour drive from me. If you're serious, send me pictures of the actual animals with labels." And let's talk. And 2 days went by and I heard nothing. And I was like, "Yep, scam. No, nothing." And then the third day I got a message like, "Hey man, here's all the pictures. Sorry for the delay. Here's the animals. Yes, this is a real thing. I won't ship them. You have to come get them." And literally 15 retics.
Holy shit, man.
From juveniles to an adult male Sunfire that was still to this day the biggest male I've ever seen.
Wow.
And I just hit him back, and I was like, "All right, when can I?"
You don't remember who he was? Do you remember his name or anything?
Devin Anderson.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was Devin Anderson, and
I
literally drove out from Colorado in a rented SUV and picked up 15 retics.
Wow.
In the I think it was November or early December of 2016.
Holy shit, man.
literally went from 0 to 15 retics.
Did you get like caging and everything, or no? Did you take like everything?
He literally sold me some of his caging. Like he was done. He was getting out of the house.
Yeah.
He was done. And I've actually posted a video of what that setup looked like. It was in my laundry room in my old house in Colorado, which had its own thermostat. So I was using I was using ambient heating to like 80 degrees in that room. But I literally had tubs stacked up.
Oh,
I had
awesome.
like 6 or 7 boa master or boa file cages. Like it was not a professional setup. Like straight
that's
up.
awesome though. But that's how everybody started. That's how everybody. That's how it all is.
Yeah, and so I had all these snakes, and so it was like, all right, now I got to learn, because I had like probably half to 3/4. I genuinely didn't even know what it meant. Like I had no idea what a platinum jamp was. Like no clue.
You just kind of jumped right in. Just fuck it, jump right in, and here we go. Look, you're gonna learn.
Anybody that knows me, I don't do things half-assed. My fiance's sitting right here, and she's literally glaring at me like,
"That's awesome."
I don't do things.
You know, I think that's the way to learn, though. A lot of times, I think, you know, like, I mean, as long as you know, especially with these animals, as long as you know what they're capable of. I mean, I think experience, man. That's the only way you're gonna. You can read everything till you're blue in the face, but you need that experience.
It's hands-on experience. It's like any other skill, right?
Yep.
How do you become a master carpenter? By smashing your finger with a hammer 100 times. Like, you know, that's the way it goes. So I got all those, and then, like I said, then I ended up still on the boards, and the boards. Yeah. You know this. The boards are what gets you. If you never got on the boards, you'd be all right. But you get on the boards, and you're just like, ah.
It's definitely. I mean, I could imagine, especially because I've been in it forever, so like I kind of saw, like you said, nothing. It was magazines and King Snake. But I remember it before King Snake, and then King Snake, and then the websites, and then I saw it all transition. So I can imagine like the guys like you that got out and got back in, or the guys that never have been in. Like there's guys I talk to now that are like, "What is that?" We start talking, and it opens up a whole world. Like it could be very overwhelming, and I guess I can't even imagine what that would be like to like. Oh yeah, there's snakes, but then there's like this type of shit going on would be crazy.
Well, and the thing about it, like for me, like when you talk about like, you know, forums like Fauna Classifieds and Bob Clark and stuff like that, like I'm super familiar with what that looked like, because we had the same thing for dogs. We were doing the same thing in the pit bull world, right? We had all these different forums and everything else. So it just like it's not surprising to me that you know that all formed and that was going on. And again, when we really wanted to get into the snakes, it was like, okay, like how do I find the same thing that I was used to in dogs in snakes, specifically in retics? And obviously I found it. So
yeah, that's super cool, man. That's crazy.
Yeah. So 2017, I kept buying snakes, and that's kind of when I started like participating in forums, right? It was 2017, like actually putting my name out there and stuff like that. So I want to say at the end of 2017, I had like 22 or 23 retics, something like that. And so the way this parlays in with the cannabis, I had a 5,400 square foot cannabis cultivation facility in Colorado. That was my medical cultivation facility. And I was in between houses at one point, and I was like, screw keeping the snakes in my house. There's too many of them anyways. I'm putting them in my facility. And so my first facility for my snakes was my cannabis facility. It worked out well. I was keeping it warm anyways. You know, I had concrete floors and drains everywhere. So it was like, why not? So I had them moved over there. Well, then in 2018, that's when I got raided and indicted by the feds. So for anybody that's watching this that doesn't know, I'm a convicted felon for growing plants.
You put a big video out too. Oh, you put a big video about that too. I remember too, and I'm like, I remember people were like freaking out about it. Yeah, which I don't know why.
I don't shy away from it, man. Like I literally was convicted. My 3rd-degree felony was for cultivation over 30 plants in a state where it's supposed to be legal. Figure it out.
That's ridiculous, man.
But yeah, so February 2018, I got raided and indicted by the federal government, and I'm not gonna go through that whole experience. It was at the time the worst thing I'd ever gone through. Turns out to be one of the best things that ever happened to me, for a multitude of reasons, and Wildfire is one of them. So at that point, like, my whole world was turned upside down. I didn't know what I was gonna do. I didn't know if I was going to prison. Like, I didn't know anything. And a week after I got raided, I called Paul Lucas, and I was like, yo, man, like, you know, I hate to be one of these guys, but you got any interest in buying any of the snakes that I bought from you back? And he was like, why? And I told him what happened. At that point, like, he didn't really know me that well. Like, he didn't know what I did, really. And I told him what happened, and he's like, so wait a minute. You grow weed for a living? And I was like, I did. And he's like,
I'm sure Paul didn't say it like that.
He was just like, that actually makes a lot of sense. He's like, but look, dude, he's like, you've put a lot of time, not just money. He's like, fuck the money. It's like, you put a lot of time into these animals. Like, you really just going to walk away, like, give that up?
Yeah.
And that conversation alone was what, like, kind of turned me the other direction, like, where the snakes were no longer just like a thing that I kind of did. It was like, no, like, I'm going to really do this.
Right.
And that combined with, again, the situation I was in, I needed something to put my time and effort and my focus into. I needed something to take my mind off of all the craziness that was going on in my life. And that's where Wildfire was born from, straight up. Like, it was literally me and like 25 snakes in my, you know, old cultivation facility. And like Wildfire, I decided I needed a name for my program because I started setting up my phone and doing Facebook Lives. Yep. And like, people were like, oh, what's the name of your program? Or oh, two more of your snakes. And it was like, oh, like, okay, I actually have to do something with this. Like, I have to do something real. And so the name Wildfire came to me because literally my passion for Retics, especially, it just spread like wildfire. Like, it lit and it went. And
that's awesome, man.
You know, I picked Wildfire Retics as opposed to like Wildfire Exotics or anything like that. I don't really do much else besides Retics, man. Like, I have a couple other random reptiles. Like, I got an Eastern Indigo. I got a black throat monitor. I've got some black dragons coming from Paul. But, you know, short of that, I've got one or two Burmese. I don't keep anything but Retics. Yeah. That's all I do. And
they're addicting, man. I mean, I've done it. I've gotten other stuff, and that's why when I did my whole name, it was JK Reptiles, because I figured if I branch out to here or there, but every time I've tried, man, it's, you know, sell it to get more Retics or trading them for other snakes. We're a lot in the same in that. I just can't not have my Retics. Nothing else piques my interest.
Exactly. And that's, you know, that's the way it's been for me for a while, and especially now. You know some of the animals that I've been getting from from Wolf, and like, that's a dream come true. But yeah, man. So that's how Wildfire started. I dropped my first clutch, and a lot of people, you know, like, I get these comments from people like, "Oh, how long have you been doing this?" I'm like, I only dropped my first clutch. I guess it'll be 4 years ago now. Like, I have not been breeding Retics that long.
Well, I was gonna say, you know, like you kind of came out of me. I mean, like you said, we're the same age, but man, I've kind of seen this all happen. And like, I remember when you kind of came into the world, and it was like you were there, and then boom, already you're like, here you go, breeding snakes and this and that, and it's like your social media, and just, you know, you post all the time, and you post such good shit that your name gets out there. I mean, I have local people that I hit up the shows, and we're talking Retics, and they watch your videos, and, oh, you know Weston? Yeah, I know Weston. And it's like, you know, your whole marketing stuff is awesome with your company. You know, it's just, the videos are awesome. All your posts are awesome. So it's, you're doing it the right way for sure.
Well, I appreciate that, man. You know,
because there's a lot of guys that don't. I mean, I've seen, you know, I'm sure you have to, you know, 5 years, you've probably seen enough guys come in, spend insane amounts of money, and they're out in 2 or 3 years. It's insane.
Here's the problem, man. And I've said this for a long time. And I learned this from dog breeding, because at one point, dog breeding, that was how I made my living, right?
Right.
I depended on my animals to eat. And here's the thing. I don't look down on anybody that breeds for a living, right? If that's your choice, that's your choice. Just do it the right way.
Yeah.
Like, and that's my only thing is if you're gonna do it and you're gonna literally make it your living, then do it the right way.
Yeah.
And for me, I didn't want that pressure of like I have to breed these animals to eat.
Yeah,
like,
I couldn't do it.
It takes the fun out of it for me, right?
Yeah.
Like, and so my biggest thing when I really started going into breeding was, okay, I'm going to breed for what I like, for what I want to produce, and I'm only going to put together animals that I feel are absolutely stellar quality, right? And so, I've spent a whole lot of time and a whole lot of money curating, and that's literally the word I use, is curating my collection. Like, there were certain animals that I spent a year or more looking for before I found the one that I wanted. And so now, I feel really fortunate. I've got a genetic pool. I can produce pretty much anything that I want. There's one or two genetic mutations out there that I don't have. One of them being ocelot. I don't have it yet. And I know the guy to go to when when I want one. But when I started breeding, it was just like, all right, like, what do I want to make, right? And I'll never forget the first clutch I dropped. It was actually with Diamond, the snake that I got from Paul, and a GC Moschino male that.
I remember when you made those. I remember when you had that clutch too.
Well, and I remember going back and forth on what, because I had two different males, and I remember going back and forth on what male I was going to use. And I ended up going with the GC Moschino, and I'll never forget walking in on that first lock and seeing it and just being like, holy shit, like,
here it is, it's happening. It's happening.
And then, of course, pulling that first clutch. And to this day, that's the biggest clutch. My first clutch was my biggest clutch. 56 eggs,
Damn.
52 of them viable, and 48 of them hatched out. Like, that was – and it was like literally, it was like in the span of like that 6 months, it was like, oh, you want to breed Retics, huh? Boom.
That's a big freaking clutch, man. That's a nice –
And I – again, then when they all hatched out, it was like, what am I looking at? Like, what are I had 5 gene animals. I had no clue what some of the stuff was. And so trying to play guesswork and sending pictures to people. And so, like, produce that first clutch, and that really just hooked me. It was like, all right, like, I'm in this now.
Yeah. It never gets old. I mean, that first clutch, my wife asked me, doesn't it get boring? Like, it never does. Like, I can never, like, I'm bouncing off the walls when I see the eggs get laid, or, when I peek in an egg, and, oh, my God, there's this. I can't stop talking about it. It's wake up, it's Retics. Go to bed, it's Retics. It's just, it never ends, man. The breeding is just so much fun. It is.
Well, it's just another element to it. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I love just going as I know you do. Like, I love just going out in my facility, and sometimes I'll literally just sit there with all the lights in the building off and
just watch them.
Yeah, just watch them. Like,
they're just so active. Whoops, I'm hitting the wrong button.
No, you're all right. But yeah, so like, that's how Wildfire started, and like, initially, the reason I started doing social media with it, because initially it was almost like a safety protocol, because I was always by myself. Like, I didn't have help. I didn't have anybody that was even remotely interested in the snakes around me. And so it was just me. And so I would go on my Facebook or, and doing these videos and stuff like that. And yeah, like, I'll never get the first one. Like, just caught, and it was my pie female Muerta, and she was terror when I got her. Like, she was just alive. She just was not friendly. And I was doing this live, and she came shooting up out of the tub at me, and I was, whoa, shit. But yeah, I was like, that was one of the first ones that caught on. And yeah, I appreciate the compliment with how you used it. my big thing with social media and Wildfire has been add value and to put stuff out there that's actually useful.
Right.
Look, again, I don't hate on use YouTube to make a living. More power to you. Good for you. Like that, like for real. I mean that. Like if that's what they're doing, cool. That's not what it is for me. Like I'm trying to put out content that's useful to people, that people can learn from, that people can actually use to become better keepers. Because one thing that I know from personal experience is when I got into Retics, and you know this.
Hey, Wes, is it getting like very choppy on your end?
No.
Because you're like freezing up a little bit. Oh, hold on. You were like freezing up. I missed a bunch of that. Let's see. I don't know.
Mine's good, man.
You're like delayed. It's like delayed. You know what? Try if you click on your name and log out and try logging right back in. Maybe that. I know sometimes it gets like, I don't know. Sometimes you have to log in and log back off. Try that and hop back on. Or maybe that's the reason. Hell yeah. Weston's dropping some serious stuff here for you guys. I know you guys want me to ask him about his big giant female. We'll yeah, it was really choppy. So he's gonna log off, log back on, and hopefully that will work. But yeah, I'm gonna ask him here about his that big girl Nefertiti. Let's see. There we go. That's a little bit better. They were saying people were like, "Oh, it's choppy." I don't know why. It was fine. It was fine the whole time. Just started. Let's see if the.
I don't know.
Technology, man.
Yeah.
So a bunch of people are asking what. So what happened with? I mean, I don't know if they just don't know, but with your big girl, what was the Nefertiti? What ended up happening with her for everybody?
Yeah. So that snake changed the way that I looked at these animals, period. You know, I had never truly been around a giant before Neffy. And I'll never forget the first time that I saw her and again, I don't take credit for raising Neffy up because I didn't. That credit belongs to a gentleman in Colorado who flew under the radar. He didn't want notoriety. He was a true keeper.
Yeah.
And I got Neffy from him in some unfortunate circumstances for him. Basically, he had her out in his backyard in the summertime. His neighbors saw her over the fence, and they called animal control on him.
Oh, they probably lost their minds seeing that snake.
Oh, yeah, dude, they did. And they called animal control on him, and he lived in an area in Colorado that had a 7-foot length rule. And so they gave him 30 days. And I was the only guy in Colorado that, you know, he had ever heard of or knew. So he got in touch with me through Mike Chambers.
Yep.
And asked me to, you know, come out and meet me and everything. And so I went to his house. And again, dude, like two of the craziest animals I've ever seen in my life in one spot. One was Nefertiti. Two, he had an Asian water monitor, and I shit you not, I thought it was a Komodo dragon.
Really?
I walked in and I looked at him, I go, yo, are you out of your mind? And he's like, you got a fucking Komodo in your house? And he's like, bro, that's an Asian water monitor. I was like, no, it's not. No, it's not. It's way
massive.
Dude, its back was literally this wide. Like,
holy shit.
Huge. Anyways, so Neffy, that's how Neffy came to me. And Neffy was already a 13 when I got her. And I was the only guy in Colorado that Sean trusted for her to go to. You know, I made some really ironclad agreements with him that she'd never go anywhere. You know, he could come see her whenever he wanted. And so that's how I got Neffy. And, you know, I'll be honest, I wasn't prepared for what that snake was. I wasn't. And, you know, I got her, and same thing. Like, when I got Neffy, I had one person helping me with the snakes, like cleaning and stuff like that.
Right.
But I didn't have anybody like really that I was super close with that could come over whenever I needed to get that snake out.
Yeah.
So same thing. Like I would go live on Facebook or whatever as a safety precaution.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
hey, if the snake gets me, Call 911. But yeah, Neffy,
she was so big. She was so freaking big.
So Colorado State University measured her officially at 21 and a half feet on the money, and she was 220 pounds. Like, there's a video on my social media, and it's probably the best comparison I've ever been able to do of her. Neffy was in her cage, and Diamond was crawling in front of her cage. And Diamond's 16 feet, right? Which not huge, but not a small snake. And she's probably in the video, she's probably 115, 120 pounds. And Diamond's in front of Neffy's cage, and she like edges up, and her head is right here, and Neffy's head is here. And like, if you look at that video, you see it, and you're just like, oh.
Just a size difference, yeah.
I mean, it was nuts.
Yes.
So, anyways, when I got Neffy, from Sean, she had like a mass on her side. And I asked him about it, and he's like, yeah, it's a fatty, benign tumor. I've had it biopsied. Like, it's there. It doesn't seem to bother her. I didn't really want to put her under just to remove it. Like, I've just kind of left it be. Okay, cool. So I did too for about the first, probably 18 months that I had her. Like, she was great. She ate regular. Like, everything was good with that snake. And again, hats off to Sean for the care that he gave her for 13 years to get her to that size. And so then it's like probably early 2020, and she went off food. And initially I was like, oh, like, okay, maybe it's that time.
Were you going to try to breed her, or?
Going to try.
You were?
I was going to try. I told Sean that at the outset. I said, listen, I said, I'm going to try. I'm not sure if it'll happen, but I have to try.
Those giant-ass genetics of her? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So she went on food, and I was like, okay. And my normal protocol with pairing, I never just throw a male in the cage. Like, first, I'll open the cage. I'll make sure, I'll touch the snake, mess with it a little bit, make sure it's not, like in feeding mode. And did all that, put a male in there, and she literally threw that male, and it was one of my bigger males. She threw that male like all the way across the cage, like just one, and threw.
Holy shit!
And I was like, yeah, okay, no, we're not.
How big was that male?
That male was probably 12 feet.
Just like a toy. Just threw him like a toy. Yeah.
Literally looked like a baby snake. So I gave her a little time, and I only fed Neffy like every 5 to 6 weeks. Like, she didn't need more than that. And so I gave her like 6 weeks. I tried to feed her again, and she didn't eat. I'm like, okay. I'm like, something's up.
Yeah.
Well, the next day, she had pissed everywhere. And I was like, all right, clean her cage. And I went to get her out. And the only time she'd ever been and I don't even want to say aggressive, defensive with me was when I first got her, and she hadn't figured out like feeding protocol yet.
Right.
And so she thought cage being open meant she was getting fed. So I go to pull her out, and she whips around and comes at me, and I'm like, and I literally fly back from the cage like this, and she didn't come out of her cage, like come out at me, but like just stayed like hovering like a foot in front of her cage. And I was like, whoa, like.
Well, she had to have a pretty crazy strike range, I bet, too. Easily, 10 foot or so, easily. Probably.
Yeah, every bit of 9-10 feet.
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting there, and she's still just out of the cage, mouth open. And I'm like, yo, what is going on? What's the problem? So I back up, I get a hook. I nudge her back in with the hook, and I just close the glass. I'm like, you obviously do not want to be fucked with. And again, I'm by myself.
Yeah,
I'm not doing it.
A little scary.
Yeah. So the next day, I had my business partner come down, and he had started working with the snakes with me. He was not a fan of Neffy. He was like, you're fucking crazy. I'm not messing with that snake. But he would at least be in the room. So I go. Do my usual tap her, like she's not, acting defensive. She's fine.
Yeah.
I pull her out, and no sooner do I get her to the middle of the floor and set her down, She turns around, mouth open, and just poises up at me. And I'm like, what is
Holy shit.
on? And mind you, now I got a 21.5-foot snake in the middle of the floor. So I noticed, though, that the area where her tumor was, and again, if you go back on videos and you look, you can almost see the progression, how it changed.
Yeah.
It initially just looked like a baseball on her side. It was literally just like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I got her out this time, that whole area of her body was just swollen. And I was like, oh, shit, like, did this thing rupture?
Yeah.
Like, what was going on? So I called Sean. I asked him what he thought, and he was like, man, he's like, I don't think there's a vet in this state that can handle her. And I was like, yeah, me either. So, and I had a local vet, so I called him, that I had dealt with on, other snakes and exotics. And I said, listen, here's the deal. I got a 21.5-foot snake, and he's like, Weston, like, come on, like, I know you got some big snakes, and I was like, Doc, like, this snake's over
like legit. No, I legit have.
The snake is legit over 20 feet. Like, you need to listen to me. Are you comfortable with me bringing her in? Because, like, I don't want to load her up and do all this if you're not willing to work on her. And he's like, I'd like to try it, but you probably should take her to CSU, Colorado State University, which they're, one of the most renowned, reptile vets in the country. He's like, okay, fine. So I called them up, explained to them what the situation was, took her up there. And, they did a workup on her, the whole thing, and, got a biopsy on it, checked all her vitals, and, everything was pretty good, but her white blood cell count was high. Her body was fighting an infection for sure. So they're like, look, let's try antibiotics. Let's do a course of antibiotics. Let's see what we can do. Like, okay, no problem. So they give me the antibiotics. I go home. I'm doing the antibiotics. The swelling goes down. She kind of goes back to normal. She eats just not a normal meal, but she eats a rabbit. Okay, we're moving right direction.
Yeah.
Antibiotics end within 2 weeks. She's blown up again, and I'm just like, fuck. So I call CSU, and I'm just like, look, like, we need to figure something else out. This is, obviously there's some sort of abscess or there's something that's causing infection. So they're like, look, really the only option is surgery. Okay, sounds good. Like, let's schedule it.
Yeah.
Mind you, I'm literally getting ready to move at this point. Like, I've made the decision. I've committed. I am moving to Utah from Colorado. So now I'm, like, staging this entire move. Anyone who's ever moved with a whole bunch of reptiles, most people do like an in town or like maybe, across the city. I literally moved 700 miles with almost 100 snakes. And it's not something I ever want to.
There's a lot of logistics with that.
Yeah, there was. So anyways, I scheduled the surgery with CSU. I took Neffy up there. She had surgery. She came out of surgery just fine, and they removed the mass, and they removed it. They said there was definitely an abscess where the mass was. Like, there was a bunch of infection. They cleaned it all out. Everything was fine. Well, took Neffy home, and obviously she was in recovery. Like, everything was still okay, and it was literally 9 days later that I had to move, and so we went through the whole process of moving, which it literally took a 26-foot Penske truck and a 7x16 trailer and a Sprinter van filled with all the snakes. So,
God damn.
We loaded this thing very systematically, and Neppy was the last snake we pulled out of her enclosure and put into I use these big rolling like DeWalt or Husky bins for my really big snakes. So put her in there, literally closed the van, went home for 6 hours, slept, went back, got the van, drove to Utah. And when we got to Utah, we literally, it wasn't like, drop some stuff off. We literally showed up, we unloaded cages, set them up, and put animals in them. Like, the snakes, they were in their enclosures. They were in their tubs or totes or whatever, less time than when I ship a snake, right?
Right.
usually when we ship a snake, it's like 15 hours, and they were literally in these tubs or totes for less than 12. So we get everything set up, and I go and I open Neppy's box, and I literally, my buddy was standing there, and I opened it, and I literally took one look at her, and I go, oh my God, she's dead. Like, the way she was sitting and her mouth was kind of cockeyed.
Yeah.
She was gone.
That's crazy, man.
I you know,
do you think it was just a shock after the surgery with the move, just too much on her system, or what? I mean,
I think it was a combination of things. I do. When it comes down to it, the surgery that was done, even though it was done at probably the best place it could have been done, it was a very difficult surgery, and I'm not going to talk disparagingly on CSU, but I am not convinced that it was that there wasn't something done in the surgery that contributed to her death.
Right.
I also think the stress, absolutely. Like, we all know it stresses our animals out to move them like that.
Yeah.
I think it just was a combination of things, and ultimately it was just too much on her system, and she perished.
That sucks, man.
And it just, it was a blow, man. Like, I've lost, obviously, when you're at this at any length of time, you lose reptiles, right? Like, it just happens. And unfortunately, a lot of times out of nowhere, because especially with Retics, they're really good at hiding their illnesses, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they will be acting normal, and you'll come in the next day and they're dead, and you're like,
what? There's no issues, right?
What? Yep. But that would hurt. That would hurt a lot. And again, not because I had her from the time I raised her, that she fit in my hands. It was just different working with that animal.
It's just such a rare and iconic. I mean, that's you can't just go out and buy another one. I mean, you can't. It's a very rare thing to have a snake that big.
Right. It is, and I genuinely thought, again, until I got some of these recent animals, I thought that was it. I was like, okay, like, I had my giant. Not everybody even gets one, and I had one. Like, I'm blessed, right? But yeah, that's what happened with Neppy, man. And I mean, I have her skin. I have I sent her skull off for a guy to do the domestic beetle.
Oh, hell yeah. That would be cool.
So I've got some, I don't want to call them mementos, but I've got things to remember her by. I wish like hell I could have had some offspring from her, but it is what it is. It
is what it is.
Yep.
Damn. All right. Well, you know what? Let's. I'm curious, and I know other people want to know what do you. What's your most anticipated pairing you think you got going on? Like, what's something you're looking forward to the most in your collection? I mean, I know some of the stuff you got, and you're growing up, but like, is there anything that's like you're like, this is what I gotta produce this, or I'm looking the most forward to?
I mean, I've been very blessed with some of the clutches that I've produced. When I hatched those Lucy's out, which is coming up on 3 years ago now, which is absolutely insane.
Yeah.
That was, I mean, again, you go back on my social and look, like, you can, the excitement on my face, I can't replicate that. Like, it was so genuine. As far as stuff that's coming up, I mean,
let's say this year, like, do you have anything you're really shooting for or
well, I
excited for this year?
I am. So I'm breeding Diamond, who is my platinum Motley het white pos het anery, and if she doesn't prove het anery, I literally might just like, okay, I don't know.
Yeah, she looks wild. She looks. Yeah. I mean,
and that snake is probably one of my favorites, or if not my absolute favorite in my collection, for a variety of reasons. I'm breeding her with my purple snow jag. So I'm gonna prove whether she's het anery once and for all. Either way, I think Motley Jags are dope. Platinum Motley Jags are even more dope.
Yep.
And even if they aren't snow, and because he's purple and she's white, obviously they'll be labs.
Right.
That's okay.
It's whatever.
Platinum lavender Motley Jags will be some pretty sick animals. And I've been wanting to do that. I got that male from Sal in 2019. So I've been waiting to do that clutch going on 3 years now. So that's one for sure. I would really like to get I'd really like to put down another clutch of purples. I haven't put down a clutch of purples in 2 years. And I'd like to put down a clutch of purples. I don't know if it's going to happen this year or not.
They're just awesome snakes. Purples, I mean, good quality purples, and that's the thing too. The good quality purples, they're hard to make. They're hard to get. Those really nice, dark, beautiful babies.
Well, and for me, it's got to have that like ridiculous yellow head. That's just my personal thing. Like, that and the purple female and then my purple anthrax male, they both do. That's the pairing that I'm gonna do. And she's not head anthrax, so I won't be making visuals, but they'll be visual purples and they'll be stellar. So, and I just made a post about that the other day. I like some of the basic stuff, man. I like better than some of these 5 and 6 June colors out there.
Yeah, I mean, I agree 100%. I mean, I talked to other guys in the industry, and I mean, it's there's just so much into it that it just takes away. You get a nice 3 gene, just work. Like I always bring up Shane. What Shane did with the Purple Sun stuff, just keep refining it year after year after year after year. That's what more people need to do, really, is just find that gene that you really like and just work on that and make it better. And just, it's a lot better than just throwing, like you said, any 3-4 gene male to 3-4 gene female and make just trash, But
exactly. Well, and again, the biggest thing, you asked me what I'm most excited about. It's not necessarily what I'm producing this year. It's what's coming. And again, I've gotten some animals recently from Nick and Wolf. I have a couple more coming. To me, like when I started looking at the possibilities and also like something I understood in terms of breeding in general was you need diversity in your gene pool.
Right.
So like 2 years ago, I got one of the Ternate Island localities from Rodney. And I got that snake, pure wild caught blood, true F1, just to throw some diversity into my gene pool, knowing that everything I put to him, I was just going to make a bunch of heads. But I don't care. That's fine, right?
Right.
And so I had kind of already started down that path, and I've got a couple of snakes in my collection that I had gotten for other reasons, not just because of they were close to wild caught blood, but like my Phantom Tiger female is an F1 calico blooded female.
Yeah.
I've got that Tiger Het Ghost that's from Ben that's off the original wild caught Ghost. Like I knew I needed other blood that was unrelated or more wild caught, closer to the wild caught stuff to bring in. And so when Nick gave me the opportunity to start getting, some of these animals, I had tried to get one of the Sumatrans that they produced 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
Just didn't end up happening. But that's what I'm really most excited for, man. And I said it on a video not that long ago.
I was going to say, I know you put your video out where you're kind of restructuring everything and kind of, going a little different direction. And
well, here's the thing, right? Like, as a collector, and that's what I am first and foremost. Before a breeder, I'm a collector, right? I collect the animals that I like, and I'm fortunate enough to be able to breed some of the animals that I like. And so, from that standpoint, you're looking at things like, I want that genetic, right? Like I want that example of that genetic in my collection. So you get it. And then as a breeder, you start looking at things and it's like, okay, how does this make sense? How does this all go together? Like, do I love having this snake enough just to have it and never do anything with it? And I have some of those in my collection. I straight up do.
Yep.
But you can't do that with every snake. You just can't.
Right.
Some have to have a very specific purpose. And when I started kind of really looking at things, like I know what I really like, and most of it is the T positive stuff.
Yep.
The purple, the Moschino. I actually meet, and some people are going to tell me I'm dumb. I like Moschino better than Mocha. I just do.
I agree. I agree with you.
And
sure.
I know you're a blonde guy.
I love the blonde stuff. It's my favorite.
I love the caramel stuff. And so that that combined with a couple other genetics, anthrax, like,
Yep.
and you know, I like the Jagmorph. I like what it does. I'm aware of the neuro issues with it. I also, again, I believe some of that stuff can be fixed by breeding it into some legitimate pure wild caught blood, outcrossing it, you know, and try to restabilize it. And so those are the kind of projects I'm most excited about, man, is using this, you know, this wild caught blood that I have. And again, I said it in one of my videos. Can you imagine a Sula with Mo?
Oh, you're freezing up. Oh no.
Up.
You were freezing up a little bit right when you said Sula and you stopped.
Yeah, you actually froze on my end too, so I got that one. But imagine one of your Sulas, right? Because you love Sulas just like I do.
That's sad.
Imagine a Sula with Moschino coloring.
Yeah, it'd be wild, man. It would be wild.
I look at something like that, you know, even just purple, right? Like with that pattern in purple, it would just be crazy.
Yeah.
And again, I could just be dreaming this stuff up in my head, and years down the road, I hatch them out, and I'm like, oh, that's not as cool as I thought it was going to be.
Well, that's the thing, though. I mean, you got to do it. You know, I remember when I did my Sula breeding, when I bred my Sula to my Platy Tiger. This was years ago, right? I got so much shit from everybody. Why would you waste that female and blah blah blah? And Jeff Byers, you know, we road tripped out. Me, Shane, we all went out to Bob's, right? And I brought the babies when they came out, and because they came out insane. And I remember Jeff Byers saw them, and he was like, "Dude, I'm so glad you did this." And he talked so much shit to me online about it. And I mean, that's the thing I like to see. You know, I like the guys that are taking this stuff and they're outcrossing it instead of just trying to combine all these genes. You know, I that's why I like doing the Sula stuff, crossing it to the Motley, and I got, you know, my 75%ers, and it's, you know, I see the stuff like Eric Lee's doing with the Super Dwarf stuff, and I'd like to see that with the Ternates and the, you know, the Sulas and the Slayers and, you know, some of the other locality stuff. That's, you can only cross the morph so many times. Everybody's doing the same shit for the most part. Not everybody's doing the locality cross stuff, which I think you mentioned you wanted to do the Sula to an Anthrax or something like that, and I think that's, dude, that's going to be crazy. That's the shit I like, you know.
I do want to cross a Sula with an Anthrax, you know, and again, it's not. I have a few different directions that I'm going with things, right? Like again, I'll put one out there. Anery Anthrax Pied. Like, to me, cool. And again, for me, I've seen all the albino pieds, right? They're novel and they're cool, but they're not for me. Like, to me, what makes the pied so cool is the contrast, right? The dark and the bright light.
Yep.
So like the Motley pieds, I really dig, but again, me just like kind of brainstorming in my head, and because I have that Anery Anthrax, I'm looking at him and a pied male above him, and I'm like, yo.
I forgot you still had that snake. Didn't you get? You got that? That was from Paul, right? Didn't Paul have that male? Mm-hmm. Has he ever bred? Has you ever produced that? Oh yeah. What did you breed him to?
I bred him to my lemon glow female. I produced.
Oh, that's right. I forgot you made those. Yeah. Oh shit! I completely forgot about those.
And he's breeding right now to my white phase albino.
Oh yeah.
So
that would be cool.
I haven't made any visual anthraxes with him because I don't have any visual anthrax females.
Yeah.
But
I completely forgot about that snake. Mm-hmm. But he's never actually proven out yet as Anery. I mean, he looks like there's no doubt I can't see how he won't. But
I have not bred him to anything that would prove Anery yet. Well, okay, that's not true. I bred him to Diamond in 2020, but she slugged out. And that was at the same time I was breeding him to Diamond and the Lemon Glow female, and I think it just wasn't. He just didn't have it then. So
there's definitely something going on with that snake, like for sure. He's very unique.
There is, and I mean, I don't think it'll take that long. However, I do have that I produced last year. I have those the Jag and the Jag Tiger female that are triple het purple snow pied, so I could prove his anery at least with
Jesus
that.
Christ. That's insane, man. Triple head stuff, man. Wow.
Yeah.
That's what I'm working for this year. I need to make some triple head stuff. So what I'm going to ask you, what is, you don't got to give me an explanation though. What is your favorite locality? I think I know, but you can only pick one. What's your favorite? You know it's a Sula. You know it's a Sula. I know it is.
Dude, I really love the Sulas, but honestly, I'm gonna go with my Bali. That Bali female that I have, and there's something, that yellow head just gets me. Something with that. I absolutely love my Bali. Sulas, don't get me wrong, and if you ask me tomorrow, my answer might change. How about that? It might change.
You know what though? I'll be honest. So Nick was showing me pictures, and I really, really like those cerams or whatever dude. Nice. Get some of those made, and I could very easily change my mind. The color, the contrast with those grays on some of those pictures I've seen are,
dude,
God damn,
I can't get a picture of it. I literally am gonna have to go down to my facility and just sit there with the camera for a couple hours. And it's simply because as soon as you take her cover off, she changes. But my pure Malaysian female, dude, when she's fired up, the silver, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's unreal. But I haven't been able to capture it in a photo or
those
video.
All those snakes that him and Wolf made are just, it's wild. It is absolutely wild.
It is, and I'm very, very humbled that because again, those guys won't sell to anybody.
I know. I know.
They won't sell to anybody. So when they've given me the opportunity to own some of these animals, I'm just yes, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's cool that they're letting somebody get them. And you're obviously going to make stuff with them and do cool stuff with them. So just to be able to see it is going to be pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So I got a two-parter for you. All right. Your most favorite and least favorite thing about the Retic community. Before you got on, people were asking me what I thought was the worst thing. So I want to know what's your favorite, favorite, least favorite.
It's actually the same thing. The answer is actually my most favorite thing about the Retic community is some of the people that I've met, and the relationships that I've formed. Straight up,
yeah.
And look, a lot of people don't like him, and I get it because he can be a real asshole. But Paul Lucas is one of my best friends. Straight up, I've never shook his hand.
Yeah.
But he's one of my best friends. I talk to the dude almost every day.
Yeah.
And so my favorite thing, it's also my least favorite thing. I don't know what it is about animal breeding, and it's not just retics, it's not just reptiles.
Everything, yeah.
It is animal breeding, period. It will bring some of the straight up dregs of society into it, and I don't get it. I don't get it. There's just some people that don't deserve or shouldn't have a goldfish,
right?
And have a building full of snakes, and it's disgusting. And it's sad to me. It's sad, because the only reason that they're doing it is the money, right? And honestly, as a breeder, 2020 was great, but I've been saying this since 2020 happened. I'm waiting for the backlash of all those reptiles that we all sold in 2020 to come back, especially in the Retic community.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
You've been in the Retics for far longer than I have to know that it's cyclical.
Yep.
It's coming where literally all of those snakes that got sold in 2020, or 75% of them that are still alive, are going to end up coming back, and we're all just going to be like,
yeah, what the fuck happened? Yeah, you're absolutely right, man, for sure.
Yeah, so Yeah, my answer on that is that it's the same. It's just different aspects.
Yeah. No, I get it. I was going to ask you who your biggest mentor is. I assume it's probably Paul, obviously, right?
They're flat out.
Yeah.
There would not be a Wildfire Retics if it wasn't for Paul. Like, and he didn't have to, and even before we formed a friendship, he was the guy that I would go to just because I had bought a couple snakes from him. He was the guy I would go to with all my questions. And like a lot of, essentially noobs, especially when it came to breeding, he very easily could have been like, yo, dude, figure the shit out on your own. And he didn't. And I love him and I thank him all the time for it. So, absolutely, Paul was my mentor.
Well, that's awesome, dude. Yeah, I mean, I haven't talked to him in a while. I mean, yeah, he's Paul is Paul, man. He knows. I mean, he knows his shit. It's crazy. It's still surreal that he's not really doing the snake stuff anymore, but because he did it for so long, and I just remember we always had our little group of us all every day talking, and it's like not really doing snakes no more. But that's how it goes, man.
He's still got a couple.
Does he? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's still So, I mean, it's not necessarily my story to tell, but I'll
right.
My side of it. I got a call in August 2019 from his now ex saying, hey, Paul's in the hospital. He had an ATV accident. He's in really bad shape. And I was like, okay. Like, sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
We're
almost done, man. No worries.
But anyways, so yeah, he had a really bad ATV accident, and when I finally talked to him a day later, he was like, "Hey, man," he was like, "I broke my hip. I'm in a bad way. I need you to take all of my snakes."
Yeah.
And I was just like, "Okay, send them." And literally, I doubled my collection in 2 weeks. I took 60 snakes from him. And a lot of those were babies, not all adults. A lot of those were babies. The only one I didn't take from him was Sunshine. That was the only snake that he kept.
Mm-hmm.
And I had all of those snakes until right before I moved to Utah. And then I shipped him back what was his. So he still has a few, but yeah, he's not really. He's over the breeding part for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely gets tiring when you're in it for any length of time. I mean, there's days I'm like, man, fuck this breeding shit. Just keep some snakes for pets. I mean, you have your days. It definitely is.
Dude, if you don't have your days in this hobby, you're lying.
It's.
I have my days where I'm down there cleaning and just nothing is going right, and all the snakes are being assholes, and it's just like, why do I do this?
Yeah, why? Right, especially when you're not doing it as a job. It's literally just, you could be like, I'm like, man, I could be spending time with my kids. We could be doing this or that. Why am I down here shoveling giant snake shit for hours up to my elbows? Like, what am I doing with my life? But
I tell people all the time, if you don't love to clean, do not get into Retics.
Yeah,
don't.
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly on the money. So 5 years, where do you see Wildfire in the next 5 years?
Oh man,
expanding, or kind of focusing, or what do you think?
I don't know. As I want to go big. That question just got a real hard look from my fiance.
Go huge.
She, by the way, when we met, she couldn't go in the building. She would like literally start shaking and crying, like she's petrified of snakes. So it's a very interesting.
But she's supportive, so that's all that meant. I mean, that's all that meant. My wife hates him. My wife hates him.
That was the one thing that I said when we got together. I was like, look, I'll never ask you to like them.
He had to love me racing cars. I got to love his snakes.
Oh, that's a good trade-off. That's a good trade-off.
But yeah, I literally just said to her, I was like, look, I'll never ask you to go near them. I'll never ask you to help with them. You don't have to like them. Just don't tell me that I can't do it.
Right.
That's the only thing.
And my wife's the exact same way. Like she used to be into them, but now she's like, I want nothing to do with them. It makes it harder since they're in my house. I think when I get them out of my house in a building, it'll make life 1,000 times easier. But
dude, I'm telling you, it will. Like,
and
that's the thing that I always tell people. And people are like, really? Like, you spend money just to keep your snakes in a separate building? And I'm like, look, it makes everything so much easier for a variety of reasons. Because here's the other thing. I know me, if my snakes are in the basement and I'm in my house, I'm going to be like, oh, well, I'm going to do this and this and this, and then I'll go down there. Like it's just almost like a constant delay versus when they're in the facility. It's like, no, I go in the facility, I'm in there, I get it done.
You got your time. You got your time to kind of, this is it. I got to do this. You don't want to, I get that.
To answer your question, 5 years. It's tough to say. What I would love to have happen, what I would envision is I've got a collection of 24, and the majority of them are giants. Straight up. That's like my vision for what I want. 5 years is not enough time to get there.
Right.
It just isn't. But on my way to that. Okay. I'm absolutely going to incorporate the locality blood in with some of the genetic mutations like we talked about. And it's what I know about me is there will be some things and that I absolutely stick with. And because one thing that I was dead set on for a long time was the Lucy project, right?
Yep.
And proving that out. I have one more breeding I want to do with it, but honestly, I just want to raise the 3 Lucys that I have.
I was going to ask you how many you had left.
Yeah.
Are they doing good? Or?
So 2 are doing fantastic. 2 are
so.
Like,
now, did you do anything? Did you feed them lighter, or did you kind of what was your? Yeah.
So for the first 2 years of their life, I only fed them live. Fed them live. Not like stunned, not like
right,
just stunned. And the way I've fed them up until the last 3 months, I switched. I would not feed them until I saw physical defecation, not urate, but actual defecation.
Yeah.
And their digestive systems are way, way, way slower. They just are. Now, the one thing I will say, since I started keeping them, and this goes somewhat against what a lot of us do, especially as larger keepers, right? We use racks, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it makes sense for us. It's the easiest way for us to keep the snakes healthy. And since I moved all the Lucys into larger enclosures, each one of them, they have done better. Now, I think that also has to do with the humidity. I keep their humidity at like 90%.
Holy shit. Damn.
Yeah, all the time. They do not get scale rot. They don't get any kind of scale rot. When their humidity drops below 50, they do not do well.
Really?
Now people will say, well, no retic's going to do well under 50%. Look, there are retics that will do just fine at under 50% humidity on a regular basis, as long as they're getting soaks and they're getting things like that. The Lucys really like higher temps and higher humidity. Again, there's 2 of them that are doing really, really well, and one's a male and one's a female, and 2 of them that are doing so-so. And again, one's a male, one's a female. So I literally have 2. Out of there were 10 that hatched out. I know that 5 are still alive. And
really?
They're turning 3 years old.
Wait, 5 plus your 4 or 5 total?
5 total.
Total. So you're 4 and 1 extra one. I was like, damn, 9 out of 10. Holy shit. I was like, damn, that's super impressive. But that's still pretty good. 50%. I mean,
better than anyone else that I know.
Yeah.
It's not saying that I'm doing everything right. I may be getting lucky. Who knows? We'll see what happens. I have started to feed, especially the 2 that are doing really well. I've started to feed them more regularly. I'm not always waiting until I see defecation.
Yeah.
I'm kind of at a point where I'm like, all right, let's just see.
Kind of try it and just kind of let nature kind of whatever happens kind of deal.
Exactly.
That makes sense. Cool, man. Awesome. Well, we're at an hour and a half, dude, so I'm going to let you get to it. I know you got shit to do, so.
Well, it's all good, man. I know we've been talking about doing this for a while.
I appreciate it. Well, no, man. We'll definitely want to get you back on one of these days. We can do it again. But yeah, I'm glad we got to do it, man. I'm glad I was getting nervous. I'm like, oh fuck, I hope he didn't forget.
No,
shit.
I didn't forget, man. I just was running around like crazy.
That's life, man. So I appreciate it, buddy. I'm gonna let you get off here. I'm gonna close up and then I'll chat with you for a quick second and then okay. I appreciate it. All right, Weston.
All right.
Take it easy, man. All right, guys. So there's Weston. Awesome podcast. Definitely going to have him back on again here soon. We're going to keep it going. I'm going to get some more lined up here. Try to get some other people on here. Hopefully not so long in between podcasts this time. So thanks for watching. Make sure you guys subscribe. And appreciate it, guys. Thanks.